Seeing that it's 6:02 p.m., meeting is now called to order for the special session of the City Council of the City of Pleasanton, Texas on October 6, 2014 at the Pleasanton City Hall. Item number 2 is roll call. Mr. Sines?
Here.
And Mr. Best?
Here.
Mr. Gallegos is not present with us. And Ms. Pacifica here is present, and Mayor Powell will be with us in 2 minutes. Item number 3, this will be a hearing to receive comments and answer questions on the proposed annexation of the following property. A 236-acre tract of land in the Nancy-Maqueda Survey, abstract number 565, Atascosa County, Texas. Thank you, Mr. Pearson.
The service plan will be read first.
All right.
Thank you. You have the first call. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. My name is Chris Stewart. I'm your planning consultant that's been working with your city manager on the administration of this annexation process. And I just want to give you a brief update on what we've done to date. We have sent the required notice under subchapter C1, chapter 43, local government code, to the property owners affected by this proposed annexation, letting them know of our intent to annex and of this public hearing, as well as the public hearing on the 14th. We are intending to carry out an annexation that follows according to the service plan. The services that the city is going to provide on the effective date of the annexation: number 1, police protection. The City of Pleasanton, Texas, and its police department will provide police protection to newly annexed areas at the same or similar level of service now being provided to other areas of the city with like topography, land use, and population density as found within newly annexed areas. The police department will have the responsibility to respond to all dispatch calls for service or assistance within the newly annexed areas. Number 2, fire protection and emergency medical services. City of Pleasanton and its fire department and the Pleasanton Volunteer Fire Department will provide fire protection to newly annexed areas at the same or similar level of service now being provided to other areas of the city with like topography, land use, and population density as found within newly annexed areas.
Mr. Stewart, may I just pause for a moment? I'd like the record to show that Mr. Gallegos has now joined us. Thank you. Go ahead.
Atascosa County contracts and provides the EMS services and will provide EMS services through to newly annexed areas at the same or similar level of service now being provided to other areas of the city with like topography, land use, population density as those founded within the newly annexed areas. Number 3, maintenance of water and wastewater facilities. All of the newly annexed property is within the water and wastewater service area of the City of Pleasanton. Existing water and wastewater facilities owned by the City of Pleasanton shall be available for use. Number 4, solid waste collection. The City of Pleasanton contracts for the collection of solid waste and refuse within the corporate limits of the city with Republic Services Allied Waste. Solid.
Just one more second. I'd like the record to show that the mayor has now joined us.
Got it.
Okay. Let me grab my agenda. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Evening.
Solid waste collection will be provided to citizens in the newly annexed areas at the same or similar level of service now being provided to other areas of the city with like topography, land use, and density as those found within the newly annexed areas. The city may negotiate with annexed areas to allow continued services with an existing solid waste management provider. After the second anniversary of the annexation date, the city will impose the fees and provide the service. If areas with private roads and or gates are arranged so that garbage may be collected without creating a safety hazard, The city, at its discretion, may collect the garbage provided proper indemnification is received from the community association or individual property owners. The city will then impose fees and provide the service. Garbage collection locations shall be subject to the approval of the supervisor of community development. In the event the city does not collect garbage within the areas with private roads and or gates, residents of these areas will not be billed for service after the 2-year date. Number 5, maintenance of roads and streets. Any and all public roads, streets, or alleyways shall be maintained to the same degree and extent that other public roads, streets, and alleyways are maintained in the areas of the city with like topography, land use, and density as found within the newly annexed areas. Private roads will remain under the ownership of the landowner or homeowners association as applicable, and as such maintained by the association or landowner. Number 6, maintenance of parks, playgrounds, swimming pools. The City of Pleasanton is not aware of the existence of any publicly owned parks, playgrounds, or swimming pools now located in the proposed area of annexation. In the event any such parks, playgrounds, or swimming pools do exist and are public facilities, the city will maintain such areas and facilities to the extent and degree and to the same or similar level of service now being provided to other such areas and facilities within the corporate limits of the city with like topography, land use, and density as those found within the newly annexed areas. Private facilities will remain under the ownership of the homeowner association or landowner, and as such maintained by the association or landowner. Number 7, maintenance of any publicly owned facility, building, or municipal service. City of Pleasanton, Texas is not aware of the existence of any publicly owned facility, building, or other municipal service now located in the proposed areas of annexation. In the event any publicly owned facility, building, or other municipal service does exist and are public facilities, the city will maintain such areas and facilities to the extent, degree, and to the same or similar level of service now being provided to other such areas and facilities within the corporate limits of the city with like topography, land use, and density as those found within the newly annexed areas. Number 8, other services. The City of Pleasanton finds and determines that such services as planning, code enforcement, animal control, library, parks and recreation, court, and general administration will be made available after the effective date of annexation at the same or similar level of service now being provided to other areas of the city with similar topography, land use, and density as those found within the newly annexed areas. Second part is construction of any capital improvements to be completed within 2.5 years. Police, fire, protection, and solid waste collection. The City of Pleasanton, Texas finds and determines that it may not be necessary to acquire or construct any capital improvements within 2.5 years of the effective date of the annexation of the particular annexed area for the purpose of providing police protection, fire protection, emergency medical services, or solid waste collection. The city has plans to conduct a feasibility analysis for additional fire protection facilities in the facility. Until such time as the feasibility study has been completed and the council directs further action, the city finds and determines that it has at the present time adequate facilities and other resources to provide the same type, kind, level of service and protection which is presently being administered to other areas already incorporated into the City of Pleasanton, Texas with like topography, land use, and population as those found within the newly annexed areas. Secondly, water and wastewater facilities. The City of Pleasanton, Texas finds and determines it is not necessary for the City of Pleasanton to acquire or construct any capital improvement within 2.5 years of the effective date of this annexation for the particular area being annexed. Third, roads and streets. The City of Pleasanton finds and determines it is not necessary to acquire or construct any capital improvements for roads and streets within 2.5 years of the effective date of the annexation of this particular annexed area. 4, maintenance of parks, playgrounds, swimming pools, and any other publicly owned facility, building, or service. I have to read this stuff. The City of Pleasanton finds and determines it is not necessary to acquire or construct any capital improvements within 2.5 years of the effective date of the annexation of the particular annexed areas for the purpose of parks, maintenance, playgrounds, swimming pools, and other publicly owned facilities, buildings, or service. Number 5, maintenance of current septic system. Any resident who currently utilizes a septic system to manage wastewater shall be entitled to continue said system except for the following. Should a septic system located within 500 feet of an existing sewer main fail to the point where repair costs will exceed the cost of replacement, the property owner shall be required to connect to the sewer system. Specific findings. The City of Pleasanton, Texas finds and determines that this proposed service plan will not provide any fewer services and will not provide a lower level of service in the areas being considered for annexation that were in existence in the proposed areas at the time immediately preceding the annexation process. Given the proposed annexation area's topography, land utilization, and population density, the service levels to be provided in the newly annexed areas will be equivalent to those provided to other areas of the city with similar characteristics. Terms. This plan shall be valid for a term of 10 years. Renewal of the service plan is at the discretion of the City of Pleasanton, Texas. Level of service. Nothing in this plan shall require the city to perform a uniform level of full municipal services to each area of the city, including the annexed area, if different characteristics of topography, land use, and population density are considered a sufficient basis for providing different levels of service. Amendments. The plan shall not be amended unless public hearings are held in accordance with Chapter 43 of the Texas Local Government Code. So that concludes the service plan, which outlines in some good detail the services that are currently provided today, those which are intended, any capital improvements which are intended to be completed within 2.5 years, and then specific findings and a discussion of the level of service. So I'm available for questions from the council at this time, and I do believe, Mr. Mayor, that there are several individuals who have signed up to speak this evening. You should have that list.
I do. Council?
No, sir.
No, sir. I'm gonna go down the list. I have number 1, Mr. Joe Vella, 244 Arlene.
Mr. Mayor, if it's possible, if somebody else would like to speak before me, I would not mind at all, and I'll speak later.
We have Kathy. Is she with y'all are together? Looks like you're stuck speaking first.
Okay. My name is Joe Villa. I live at 244 Eileen Drive, and this has been my retirement home. And we're a family person, but now we're retired. And I had some questions on the letter we received about the petition for acquisition. I did not see any authorization on the letter, what grounds they were being petitioned for annexation. And then I didn't see how it was started. Was it started by the council? Was it started by petition? The other thing I did not see any zoning. I did not see any green zones requirements. And there's a small discussion of parks. I don't know about state statutes, but I believe for 236 acres is quite a bit of annexation you're requesting. There's no future improvements for that area, even after 2.5 years, 5 years, or 10 years. Nothing has been provided to us. Police powers were not discussed. Does the codes become immediately available, or 2.5 years do they become? We must conform to the codes. So I have a lot of questions.
Okay. You mind attacking
I
that?
would just invite Mr. Velo to meet with Mr. Stewart after the meeting. A lot of the answers to his questions were provided in the service plan, but we'll be more than happy to meet with him.
Okay.
And also, that information can it be sent to all the neighbors?
Can we have that available at least electronically?
It is.
It is available? Oh, yeah, it is available on our,
Okay.
it's available on the website.
Okay. That's it.
But could we maybe have him address a few of those questions, like, because he's not the only one that wants to hear that.
Okay.
And forgive me because I may not recall all of your questions.
You want me to start with the first one?
I know you asked about the authority under which.
Right. The
Okay.
annexation
So
started.
the city is following Chapter 43 of the Local Government Code.
And that's based on petition.
That is based on. Here, I'll pull that section up.
I don't want to take my 3 minutes.
No. Okay, so this is under 43C1, it's an annexation procedure for areas that are exempted from municipal annexation plan. Okay? So this portion of the statute lays out the process that we need to follow. And the major reason that authority that we have to do this is that there's an exemption under 43052 H1, okay? H1, which allows for annexation following the public hearings and following the notice for an area that contains fewer than 100 separate tracts of land on which one or more residential dwellings are located on each tract. So that's the exemption.
And the
that
other
we're
one
following.
also says petition.
That's another way that it's exempt. That doesn't mean that it's not and, it has to be annexed on petition.
If.
It's or if the area will be annexed on petition. It's not, I'm not trying to argue that this is being done under petition. I know it's not voluntary. You didn't come to us and say, annex
Right.
us.
And so who
it is-
gave you authority to annex?
The state of Texas gave us,
The city? So
gave
they
the
voted
city.
on it?
they voted to initiate the process, and they haven't acted on it yet. They want to have the public hearings first to gather the input, and then they can decide to act or
I appreciate
on the annexation.
information. Okay. The next question was,
And if you want to, if you don't mind, Mr. Villa, if you could get like a list, would you mind answering those like in maybe a more formal format to give to Mr. Villa? Would you mind?
no, I'm just
Yeah,
trying
I
to
just-
help the neighbors and myself.
Sure,
Answer
sure.
the questions. Isn't the state required green zones over 200 acres or less?
I'm not familiar with that requirement.
Okay. Could you check for it?
I wouldn't know where to begin and what part of the law.
Okay.
If you're talking about zoning, then there is no
Green-
requirement in.
No,
in
green
zoning.
zone.
Green zone, I'm honestly not familiar with that.
Okay. And also, how come we're not supplied with a zoning map?
Because the city does not have. a
We don't
zoning
have
map.
zoning.
Do you have a proposed?
We have a future land use, that's about the closest thing that we have to it, but we've mentioned zoning before, and that seemed to be a dirty word, but as of now, we do not have any.
Will the zoning be considered before it's annexed?
That's a whole nother subject. That would have to be something that would be citywide, not specific to any one area.
Right, and not likely before, if they were to take action on the schedule that they're allowed, then that would.
That's not a
that
quick
would
process.
Not happen.
So
before
the
then. That would
land
be a
use
different
right
process.
now is the way it is, and that's the way it's gonna stay.
The land use plan right now, our future land use plan, we assume for our utility purposes and a lot of our administrative planning purposes, we assume that it's gonna stay low-density residential. We don't have any,
And
city doesn't have any
kinda-
plans to develop
An
utility
industrial
infrastructure.
park next to our
But we don't
property.
have that zoning authority in place. We don't have a zoning, we don't have zoning, so we're not gonna say that your property is zoned residential and your neighbor's property is zoned industrial. We don't have that ability. We haven't taken on that authority to do that.
And if you look, the majority of the land that's already there is owned by homeowners. I say the majority.
There's a couple of big tracts. in
Yeah,
the area.
there is, but those are attached to subdivisions as well. Do we know what the percentage is of current resident properties as opposed to land that's just open? Yeah, what's the
There were three folks that were offered non-annexation agreements that had large parcels and they had ag exemptions. Outside of that, it was low-density, single-family housing.
You have given some ag exemption
Well,
parcels.
Sir?
the ag exemptions, there are some parcels that already have ag exemptions.
But that's-
They filed that. That's with the appraisal district.
That's what the appraisal is.
Right, but by law, if somebody has an ag exemption, we have to offer them a development agreement.
So our particular subdivision, Grace, has allowed one large animal. So that's still gonna go on.
That's a private matter, that's in your
mean, the
covenants.
codes
And we
will not be
we're not gonna get
enforced.
into, we don't enforce your covenants, we don't interpret your covenants.
Okay, so, but the city does not allow us to have large animals.
And I don't know the answer to that.
You would have to look at the animal control ordinance to determine whether you fit it within that. Yes, sir.
Okay, those are the questions I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, since there is no park, there's no maintenance, right? Right, there's no drainage improvements even planned for 5 or 10 years. Now, building codes, does that become effective at the date of annexation?
The building codes, yes, the building codes become effective the date of the annexation.
The other question is, if you have a deed restriction and a building code, which takes priority? Or it takes,
Restriction or a building code, the building codes are based on life and safety, and so those are gonna take priority.
so if there's a building code that says that it's unsafe to keep a large animal on the property, you would not be allowed to keep it.
That's correct, that's how.
That's
how the
not-
rules-
No building.
There's a process of a variance that we've granted in the past, and actually, back behind the college, they have some buffaloes, 5 or 4, so
But that requires me to come before you.
that's correct.
And ask for that variance, or the zoning.
No, we have no zoning committee.
The building codes are about construction, not about animals.
Okay. Improvements, okay, we talked about, how about streetlights? None of us have streetlights. Does that become a non-improvement?
Yeah, there's not, we don't have street lights uniform throughout the city to begin with.
But Mayor, if there's
Yes.
requests from, the city usually will request that to the electric company and get on the process of putting them up.
And if it's things like that that you want, I mean, there's no help that we can give you now. There would be if this process proceeds.
There is another question that I have concerning utilities. I understand from our tax, we have two electric companies. One is Carnes and one is a CP or AP.
AEP.
AEP.
And their our taxes are going to increase also. Along with the city. Is that correct?
The,
It's Dalton's.
Well, yes, if it is annexed, you
Mr.
would
Gagos, hang on
be
one second.
paying
Mayor,
city
if I could,
taxes.
let's let Mr. Stewart meet with him after the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, we need to know.
We'll meet with you after the meeting.
Police powers are.
It'll be the same throughout the city. It won't be any different from your part of the city.
Means a lot
okay.
of different,
But it's not going to mean any different to where I'm sitting right now to where we're talking about.
health issues, not only policemen. But,
And if that's annexed as part of the city, it gets the same treatment as everybody else.
well, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
And is Miss Kathy, were you, did you want to, he spoke for you, okay?
She's going to give you her 3 minutes.
Okay, next I have Mr. Kevin Carr, 219 Eileen. Okay,
What is going to be the tax rate?
the current tax rate is, I can't think.
.48977 per $100 valuation.
Same, okay. 048977, is that correct?
Yes, sir. So,
And there's no extra services, we're already paying. I heard that our rates are going to go down on like the city, is that true?
yeah, the rates
Water and
within the
sewer.
city are lower than the rates
Okay, so
outside the
our
city.
water and all that will go down a little bit, and I also heard insurance.
Your insurance should because it falls under, I can't remember what it's called.
You'll get attached to the city's ISO rating, which is a state rating of the capability of firefighting based on the utilities and firefighter response. So you will be attached to the city's ISO rating, and we have a rating of 3. 1 is the best, 10 is the worst. So there's a good possibility your homeowner's insurance will go down. We can't predict that,
I understand.
but you will be tied to the ISO rating.
All right, thank you. Judge Batista.
I think I may have put down the wrong address, 231.
You put 321.
I was busy talking, 231.
We'll still let you talk.
Thank you. But I'm not here under the capacity of judge. I'm here as a property owner at this point. And the one thing I didn't care about the letter, if you make me read, don't make me read. Because this letter, have y'all read this letter?
I have
the first paragraph, the city of Pleasanton intends to annex. Then obviously the second paragraph is in reference to 2 public hearings. Maybe behind the 2 public hearings, it should have been in parentheses. This is a formality only, because this is going through, am I right?
Well, I mean, that's why we're having
More than
public
likely, it's
hearings.
going through. But then, paragraph number 3, upon completion of the annexation. This letter makes it sound like this is going to happen, no ifs, ands, or buts. But my question is, why? Why are y'all wanting to annex that particular area? Is it for the tax base? Because if it's for the tax base, I think what you really need to look at is trying to get in more businesses that are sales tax revenue instead of property tax revenue. The other item is, I really don't believe any of our services are going to change. In other words, those of us on Eileen Drive, we already receive services from the city for the water, for the sewer, for garbage pickup. Sad part is, very seldom do I see a patrol car out there, either on the county side or on the city side.
On the city side, we can't because it's out of our jurisdiction. Am I wrong, Chief?
Well, either that or they're going to turn around at somebody's driveway because part of that street is inside the city limits.
I think it's the first
So you
2
would think
houses
that
in
they
a,
would
first
come
2
all the
houses
way
in about
down?
10 foot of a yard or 5 foot of a yard, something like. It's an odd property line that goes
Okay.
to.
Well, it's further down than that. So at this point, are they turning around at somebody's driveway instead of coming all the way down to the cul-de-sac and then going back out? Because the fire
answer that
service
question.
is not going to change. EMS is not going
And I think that's the point, though, is all those services you're already provided, and the people that are getting those, that are citizens and having to pay taxes, you're getting the same service, so why not be part of the city? That's the whole premise behind annexation is you're already getting the services. You need to be,
Okay, but what is the reason behind the annexation?
what I just said.
That cannot be the only reason.
That's not the only reason, but it's definitely one of the reasons.
Okay, what's the other reason?
I'm just giving you that one. That's, to me, that is, in my mind, if we're already providing services to that area, and the demand is the same as any other street that's in the city or any other residence that's in the city, why not just become part of the city?
I respectfully disagree if it's only for the purpose of the tax base.
Okay?
Because I don't know what's changing. What's going to change by us coming inside the city limits?
One of the other
Besides
things that
having to
if,
pay taxes.
as a city, if you don't expand through what's already your ETJ, you can't grow. You have to grow through your ETJ. So to grow a city, you have to annex those people that are part of the ETJ, which, and you correct me anytime I'm wrong, that moves the ETJ extended out and allows the city to grow that way.
Okay, I think some of us besides myself would like a better explanation on why this is happening. And because of the way the letter itself is printed, I will be the first one to say, I don't believe we have a voice at this point because of how it is printed.
Well, that wasn't
It's
the,
just going to happen.
that wasn't the intent if that's the way it came off. That's not how it was meant.
You have to read it.
I have read it.
All right.
Next is Mr. Trial, Jason Trial? Dr. Trial.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Thank you for this opportunity to speak tonight. I'm Jason Trial. I live at 228 Liberty Lane. I have some of the same concerns that Judge Bautista has. I hear what you're saying as far as expanding the city, but I don't see the reason behind the expansion with expanding our tax base in that manner. Getting the funds, obviously it comes down to funds for city revenue, I would suspect. I don't see patrol cars. A portion of my street does encompass, I guess, the eastern side of the street. I haven't seen a police car or a city police car on my street in years. And so I don't know, I guess that once we're annexed, we would have to go through those channels to get those things to change, but I don't see those things changing. I don't see we don't have street lights, we don't have curb, we don't have gutters, we have a drainage issue on our street. Obviously by this plan, there's no, if you said, yes, we're gonna annex you, and this is what we're gonna do to make it better for the money that you're gonna be paying in addition, I might be in favor of this annexation. But at this point, it's basically, you're going to continue to have what you have now. And for the record, we're paying higher rates for that water and for that sewer for the sheer fact that we are not within the city. And so my big complaint is, okay, so you take away, drop those rates down, and I understand that, but provide us a better service. If you want to grow the city, make it better. Give us some streetlights. Give us the services that a city should provide. And I don't feel like you're doing that now, so
We can't do that now, Dr. Trowell. That's the thing. We can't do that for you now.
But I have a portion of my street that is part of the city, and that's not happening there. The drainage issue is in the very portion of this that is currently part of the city, and nothing's happening there. And I've been through the channels, and I've talked to people to try to get some of those things resolved, and they did cut the ditch a little bit, but it needs a major reconstruction in order to be truly functional long term. You guys know that the front of Hayden floods. You know that the front of my addition floods right there on Liberty Lane. And I'm looking at a piece of paper here that says, yeah, we're going to annex you. We're not going to change anything. We're not going to make it any better. But we're going to take your tax dollars to do this. And I don't think that's right. I think if you guys want something like this to pass, you come to us and say, well, this is how we're going to make it better.
But you got to understand, and this is what I want. I'm going to say this one time because it is the truth. This is the process that we have to go through. Okay. There's no other way to do it. When you say come at us a different way, this is it. We're bound by the way we have to do this. And I'm not saying that we like it any more than you do, but we're the ones that have to make sure it's done this way.
You're bound to not put any improvements for 10 years?
No, that's not what I'm talking about. This is the process to go through an annexation. We have to do it this way. We can't just say, hey, let's prepare these people. Nobody's going to come to us. It's very rare that somebody's going to come and ask for annexation. Sure. But as a city, if we don't look at that, if you look up what the purpose is and why cities do that, to not get into the discussion of why, but to understand the fact that a city has to grow, and the only way we can do that is through this process. And I know that's probably not the do-all, end-all that you want to hear, but if you study why cities annex, I mean, that's what we're doing. We're falling in suit with that. And of course, this is a hard crowd to sit in front of. Sure. Because the seven of us are the ones that have to answer the questions. And, the fact is it beneficial for the city to do this? And looking at, one of the things that sometimes we get, I don't want to say accused of, because that's not really how I mean it, but how come y'all didn't plan this? Why is all of a sudden this happening? Well, a lot of it is because it's a hard decision to make to do these kinds of things. But looking forward, and with what we've implemented and what we're moving forward and what we see happening from the information we've received, which it's public information, but it's been given to us to, hey, look, this is what you have to look at. In our mind, we thought, okay, let's start this process and let's see where this goes, and that's why we're in the middle of all this right now.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you taking my comments. I guess my biggest fear is that we're going to continue to live in rural America in a county-type setting with county-type services and pay city taxes. Well, that's my fear.
I mean, you're not going to get any less attention than any other part of the city. The way projects usually work, if there is something that's needed in an area, and it's getting a little easier to do now, but in the past it's been really hard, and you had to say, look, here's all we got. What are we going to be able to do this year? Well, some of it was dictated by the price of the project. We only have this much, so we can't even do this project or start it. But then you just kind of had stuff on a list, and you started just checking those off as money came in, and you were able to do that. And it wouldn't be any different. I mean, the city wants to provide for everybody that's in the city limits.
Sure. Well, thank you for your time, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Council.
Ms. Israel.
Yes, may I make a comment?
Please.
The one thing that I don't think that we've touched on here that I think is extremely important to realize is that we have a master plan. And not only did we look at our ETJs, but we looked at the master plan as a whole to see which way that the city is growing. And so that was what Mr. Stewart helped us with to begin with. That's the first step. There was a question about zoning. We get the master plan worked, we get annexation started, and then we look at the possibilities of zoning that won't be affecting people that are already in place, but in future there would be, the impact would be zoning. And what you were speaking of as always being in a rural area, well, these are the steps that we have to take in order to move forward. And we're looking at great expansion of our water loop and I know you're going to make a point where you're already paying for that. Sure. but you're getting the pipes and everything else that other people are paying for as well to get to you. And the services are going to just increase and be better in that area. And my suggestion to you, as far as continuing to look at the area that you have the drainage issue with, I would get with your commissioner, along with whoever might be your future council member, and get on it, because that has been a discussion more than once. So that doesn't mean the wheels stop. It depends on which way the wheels are moving, whether it's in the county or the city yet. And as it stands, the issue you have is in the county, and will be until we finish this process complete. But I didn't want you to think there is a master plan you can look at, and that might help answer some of your questions as to how the council hopes that we continue to move over. I mean,
Interlocal agreement with the county and the city.
correct. Yeah, there's some things that can be done, so.
Thank you, Dr. Schwab. Mr. and Mrs. Morales?
I'm William Morales at 131 Liberty Lane. We just moved here in 2009, so we don't know all the people and politics of the area, why you're wanting to expand, and we haven't looked at that master plan either. But I do have a concern that I want to air about the storm drainage in that area that the doctor just mentioned. And that's the only thing that I have. Unless you have something else.
It is in the city.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to take pumps to get the water up that topography there. Whoever's going to develop that land across from the airport is going to be saddled with that, or is the city going to take that storm drainage into there?
Well, it's definitely something that's been brought up, and not anything we've had to tackle at this point, but
Mayor, we can address that. If a developer comes to the city and is going to develop a piece of property, it is their financial responsibility to fully develop that property, whether it be drainage, water, or wastewater.
Because you're familiar with that area, right? The water goes across the street and into that field.
It would be up to the developer to properly develop their property under plan review by our city engineer and our public works folks. The city would not have any hand economically or use any city taxpayer money to fund a developer's project.
Okay, but how about the flooding in the area?
That would be up to the developer to handle that.
But I mean,
if he
nobody
develops
buys
that
that
property.
property right now, we're in a drought type situation, but say we get Noah's Ark type situation and the floods. I understand the house at the very front of the subdivision has flooded one time.
Well, I can't speak to that. You were speaking to the property across the road, and I was only speaking to that issue. If a developer were to come to the city to develop that property, it would be up to them to develop the drainage facilities to accommodate their development.
And if no one ever develops that land, I mean, if it stays put for 10 years and we get a catastrophic
It would
flood,
stay just like it is right now as far as the undeveloped property is concerned.
and what about our subdivision?
I can't speak to that. I'm not a drainage engineer.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor. Is our area the only area that can be annexed at this time?
I mean, we're not bound to which areas we can look at, but with the information that we have, looking at our master plan, future land use assumptions, this was the, I guess, the progressive step.
I have one more question. With the annexation, I mean, right now we pay county tax, and then now we'll be getting the city tax, and so what are is the percentage going to change on that? As far as it gonna
I mean, you wouldn't,
high or
that would be the same.
the same?
It would be no different for that portion being annexed than it would be for any other part of the city. I hope that answered your question.
The same tax rate.
Yeah, it's the same tax rate. That's
You'll
what
be
you're
paying the
asking.
same tax rate as the residents in the city limits.
And what was that number again?
0.48.
0.48977 per $100 evaluation.
One last question, will we get a copy of everything that he told us that we would be?
You can get a copy of anything you would like. Yeah, absolutely.
Online.
And it's all on our webpage.
It's online.
It's all online on our city website.
Okay, and the
Well,
master
I've been
plan?
online before and tried to find out who is our council person for that area. What district are we in?
It's county right now.
It's broad, it's county.
The two districts, hang on, everybody, hang on. The two districts that kind of join right there are District 3, and so Ms. Pacifica and Mr. Best, that's where their two districts meet.
Mr. Best? Okay. I missed it.
Well, Mayor, I think for some clarification off of Goodwin, and I can stand to be corrected if I'm not providing the correct answer. I think the issue is right there where Goodwin is, if 500 feet in is part of the city. Anything beyond that is county. So I think that's where, I don't know where y'all live, if y'all live right there.
One Liberty Lane.
I don't know how far down it is, but only the first 500 feet are in the city limits. And then anyone, if you're 3 or 4 houses further down, you may be in the county. But, yeah, and I'm very aware about the drainage there at what y'all are talking about, because we preceded this several years ago, and that was a main issue, because that water comes out from Simon Road down a peanut land out there, and it comes through those subdivision on Hayden and just cuts through, and it's a major drainage. But I don't know why TxDOT doesn't help out also if it's right on Goodwin there on Airport Road.
But what I see is the major issue is gonna be the topography, it goes uphill from there. So
Drainage in this area, just, having a river run through our, it's gonna be an issue. It's always an,
I had
it's a
flooding
big
in my
issue.
District 4 that I've never had in years, and I had 2 homes flooded, and they sit way up above the
But is
street.
anybody in the city working on that, on the drainage plan or stormwater drainage?
Is that part of the master plan?
That's a good question. I don't remember if that, Mr. Pearson, what as far as drainage issues, do we have that in the either?
The drainage was not in the master plan, but we are doing the comprehensive drainage study right now that was directed by council. And we would look at those other drainage facilities as the council prioritized them and told us to look at them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Pearson,
Mr. Best.
do we know, or do we have an idea of this property, where district it will end up in?
That would ultimately be determined by the council and whether they were ready to redistrict if the annexation is completed and passed by the council. Then the council would have to determine whether they want to move forward and redistrict now or whether they want to wait. But obviously, the folks need to have a council member assigned to them. We can bring Mr. Maldonado back on that, but we have discussed that. He and I discussed that, I think, at some length with Council Member Israel in San Antonio a couple of weeks ago over lunch, and it's really the flexibility of the council, but it would be highly recommended to go ahead and redistrict and establish a council representative for that area.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Shives.
Mr. President, and the mayor, I would like to direct my question and an answer, which I do know, that every 10 years, it's been redistricted by certain organizations or just the department. But what we're discussing can be done, and regardless of whatever transpire, like you say, if it's been redistricted before they are annexed, then it's 2 different issues.
Yes, sir. There's
Definitely
we're required by law every 10 years to redistrict anyway, based on population trends. But at the same time, in this particular instance, Mr. Sines, if the annexation passes, you all can elect to redistrict right then.
Oh, that's the question that I
Yes,
was
sir.
going to ask. We can redistrict again?
Yes, sir.
In between that
Yes, sir.
10-year term?
There's a have to and a want to there.
Okay.
Yes,
Ms.
sir.
Israel, I don't want to get too deep into redistricting because that's cart before the
This
horse.
isn't gonna be deep at all. It's one deal.
This is
In the meantime, your commissioner is Bill Carroll. And you might want to write that down.
Can I show you who is the commissioner for this portion, which is where the drainage is? Who is the commissioner for this portion right here?
That is city limits. That's city ETJ.
No, 'cause
Yeah,
it
but he just wants to know who's the commissioner over that area because
It would probably be Commissioner Carroll.
Okay, so it's city limits now? This is city limits? So what I'm talking about is this.
That's city limits.
That's all city limits. Anyone beyond that dark line is county.
Y'all are over that area.
That's correct.
And who is the county, the city council member?
I guess Doug Best, I don't know how far, he doesn't go past
it's Mr. Best.
Best, yeah, has to. And that might be the first 3 or 4 homes only.
Yes, sir, and the drainage is just right there. It's right across the opening of that. Thank you for
sir. Any other questions? I just want to close with saying I appreciate your comments. Understand that, this is a tough decision to make, but when you're looking at the best interest of the city, with the information we've received, with the, everything that we've talked about, discussed, and really trying to look at planning the city and growing the city as it should be, the indication is this is a step that we feel we should take after, we've received all that information and discussed everything. But it's not taken lightly. And I just wanted to express that it's, cities have to do this to grow, and we're at a point now where we really have to be looking at that if we're going to plan ahead and be proactive.
Mayor, just for
Mr. Gagos.
clarification, I'll make it brief. As a city, as a whole, we have, if you're in the city limits, you have a city council representative for your district, because we're 6 single-member districts. And we also have county commissioners who represent us in the city. And there are 4 commissioners, precinct 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then, of course, our honorable judge. But, so we're all represented even in the city limits by a commissioner, even though I don't think they do very much, but get a lot of votes. But they mainly, their priority is the county roads. So we still have to elect them, but what do we get? Nothing but paying county taxes. So,
Okay, any other comments? If there's none, we'll move on to item number 4, which is ordinances and resolutions. Item A is reading and adoption of resolution number 135-14, adopting Texas Government Code, Section 552.275A and 552.275B, relating to Public Information Act requests, and resolution number 135-14. It's a resolution of the City Council of the City of Pleasant, Texas, adopting a Texas Government Code, Section 552.275A and 552.275B, relating to the Public Information Act request, providing a severability clause, providing a repealing clause, providing this resolution to be cumulative, and providing for an effective date.
Mayor?
Mr. Gagos.
I move to approve the adoption of resolution number 135-14, adopting the Texas Government Code, Section 552.275A and 552.275B, relating to the Public Information Act.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution number 135-14, adopting Texas Government Code Section 552.275A and 255.275B, relating to Public Information Act requests. Any discussion? None will proceed to the vote. Those in favor of the resolution, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Resolution passes, adopted. Item number B is discussion and action to allow temporary closure of Main, Johnson, Smith, and College Street on Tuesday, October 7th, 2014, from 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. and for the annual Red Ribbon Week Parade. Chief Sanchez.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
The Pleasanton Elementary School is having its annual Red Ribbon Week Parade on Tuesday, October 7th, 2014, from 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. They've requested some temporary street closures, which I think all of y'all have above them.
Yes, sir.
We will provide, all of our officers will be there. Not all of our officers, but all the officers on shift will be there, and we'll provide them with support, whatever they need.
Mayor?
Mr. Gagos.
Yeah. I move to approve the temporary closure of the above-mentioned streets from 9:30 a.m. until 10:30 a.m. on October the 7th, 2014 for Red Ribbon Week Parade.
Yeah, you laughed at me.
Yeah.
Approving temporary closure of the above-mentioned streets from 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. on October 7th, 2014 for Red Ribbon Week. Any discussion? None, we'll proceed to the vote. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
That's what you get for laughing at me.
I know. I'm telling you, in preparation, I was saying it, so followed suit. Discussion action to restrict access to River Park from 5 p.m. on Friday, October 17, 2014, till midnight Saturday, October 18, 2014. Close the Main Street Park entrance to selective use only and allow the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce to charge an entrance fee for the dance during the market days events. Our facilities and activities manager.
I think I'm gonna present that one, Mr.
And
Mayor.
he actually recommended to approve, correct?
Correct.
Okay, Mayor?
Mr. Gagos?
Okay, let me get to it. Okay, Mayor, I move to approve the Pleasanton Hispanic Chamber of Commerce to host the annual Market Day event at the Pleasanton River Park on October the 18th, 2014.
Well, hang on, Mr. Gagos. Can I get you to just read it from the agenda, not the recommendation?
Oh, okay, all righty, let me go back. I was going to the recommendation. Okay. I have it right here. Okay. Mayor, I move to approve
Access to the river.
to the restricted access to the river park from 5 p.m. on Friday, October the 17th, 2014, until midnight on Saturday, October the 18th, 2014. Close the Main Street Park entrance to selective use only, and allow the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce to charge an entrance fee for the dance during the Market Day event, facilities and event, and also to waive the fees for Pavilion number 1 and 2.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to restrict access to the River Park from 5 p.m. on Friday, October 17, 2014, until midnight Saturday, October 18, 2014. Close the Main Street Park entrance to selective use only, and allow the Hispanic Chamber to charge an entrance fee for the dance during the Market Days event, and waive the fee for Pavilion 1 and 2. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Best.
that motion includes items 6 and 7 together?
Sure does.
Oh, okay.
No, it doesn't. They're two different agenda items. Number 7 has to do with the school.
Well, you said number 2.
No.
But no,
Pavilion number
but they're
1 and 2.
requesting to donate Pavilion number 1 and 2, I think. Isn't that part of their letter?
No,
Huh?
it's not on there. It's not
It
like
was
that.
presented and seconded. That's the motion we have in front of us.
It was, though.
Is it?
1 second, Mayor. And I'll look it up, because according to his letter, it's on page 11.
Okay.
It's on page 11. And, his letter from the chairman is,
Should be.
You read it from the agenda?
I'll be right, okay. From David Douglas, it says, the city to donate the use of Pavilion number 1 and Pavilion number 2 for the use during market days
And
on
that
October
is,
the 17th and 18th. That's why I included it in my motion.
that is included in the motion. So the motion before us is, do I need to repeat the question?
And that is on page 12 on our iPad.
All right, there's no discussion, so the question is to restrict access to the River Park from 5 p.m. on Friday, October 17th, 2014, until midnight Saturday, October 18th, 2014. Close Main Street Park entrance to selective use only, and allow the Hispanic Chamber to charge an entrance fee for the dance during the Market Days event, and waive the fee for Pavilions 1 and 2. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 7, discussion action to waive pavilion fees for Pavilion 2, close the River Park to vehicular traffic, and allow the temporary closure of Adams Street with 2nd US Highway 281 in North Chapman on Wednesday, October 22nd, 2014, from 7:30 a.m. until 6:30 p.m. for the District 30 Quadruple A County Cross Country Meet hosted by Pleasanton ISD. And Chief, you're recommending?
That we allow it, we'll provide support to them,
Mr.
whatever they
Mayor,
need.
Mr. Best.
I move to, make sure, okay, I move to waive fees for Pavilion number 2, close the River Park to vehicular traffic, and allow the temporary closure of Adams Street from 2nd US Highway 281 to North Chapman on Wednesday, October 22nd, 2014, from 7:30 a.m. until 6:30 p.m. for the District 30 4A cross-country meet hosted by Pleasanton ISD.
second.
Moved and seconded to waive the fee for Pavilion number 2, close the River Park to vehicular traffic, and allow the temporary closure of Adams Street from 2nd US Highway 281 to North Chapman on Wednesday, October 22nd, 2014, from 7:30 a.m. until 6:30 p.m. for the District 30 4A cross-country meet hosted by Pleasant ISD. Any discussion? Opposed, in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Item number 8 is discussion action to grant a variance of title.
Thank you.
What is that? Thank you, Chief. Title 14, section.
15.
Title 15, section 150.04, ground sign and billboard regulations, section K5 for 1047 West Oak Lawn.
Hello.
Yeah.
My voice is a little hoarse right now, so I'm gonna. City staff recommends to approve the new monument sign located to be 6 foot inside of the property line and to meet all other requirements of the ordinance. That's the rendering of the sign. It's a monument sign. It's not up in the air, just a monument. It sits off the ground, height 5'6". Can you go ahead and turn it to the next one? If you can see the road line on the edge of the pavement in the driveway, it's usually long than normal, than the 15 feet that the intent of the ordinance is. So you actually have 33 feet prior to the sign and then a 6 foot. So
Okay.
for safety reasons, that way bring it a lot closer instead of goosenecking and trying to see the sign. So we recommend that it be approved just for the location of that and the obstacles.
Mr. Mayor, okay, then we can grant this as presented. Mr. Besson.
I move to grant a variance to Title 15, Section 150.04, ground sign and billboard regulations, Section K5 for 1047 West Oak Lawn.
Moving second to grant a variance to Title 15, Section 150.04, ground sign and billboard regulations, Section K5 for 1047 West Oak Lawn. Any discussion? There's none, we'll proceed to the vote. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 9 is discussion and action to approve the development agreement, cost reimbursement agreement with CST Brands. Mr. Person.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Evening.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
I heard you heard your own personal pilot. That's great.
I'll tell you what, he's a good one.
This agreement before you all this evening is a long time coming. I must add that Andrew Baumgartner with CST Brands is here this evening. He was a major part of this negotiation along with Florida Nolan with CST Brands, Mr. Maldonado, and myself. As you all recall, we have discussed this with you all for some time about the development of CST Brands or Valero at Airport and Highway 97. This evening, we have an agreement on the cost reimbursement agreement before you all for consideration. There is some literature in the write-up, and I'll briefly go through it. The infrastructure that was put in was in the form of a wastewater main and a potable water main to not only support CST Brands, but to support the majority of the rest of the development in that area through the years. These agreements are customary because CST Brands did exactly what is the precursor for these agreements. They put in oversized mains, and they put in a lot more than they had to support future agreements, future development. What is the key for the city? Number one, the water and wastewater main are 12-inch. The linear footage of pipe they put in was around 4,000 linear feet. And the economic considerations, which is detailed further on in your packet there, at about $396,000 of cost to them. The agreement has several key components to include, but not limited to, the length of the agreement, the effective date of the agreement, the cost reimbursement calculation. In other words, if someone ties onto the water line or the sewer line, how are they going to pay? And who will administer the agreement? The length of the agreement is 12 years. Whatever amount of reimbursement has been sent back to CST Brands, if approved by the council on behalf of the city, at the end of 12 years, the agreement would be over. Or if they recoup all their funds, which is about $396,000 before that time, then the agreement is set aside. The effective date of the agreement, if passed by the council, will be this evening. However, on page 1 of the agreement, you will notice there's a retroactive clause dating back to March 11, 2014. That's when the city accepted the infrastructure and began providing the service. The cost reimbursement calculation.
I'm sorry, I have a meeting.
The cost reimbursement calculation will be based on the equivalent dwelling unit, which is what's called an EDU demand, and that's based on the potable water meter size. And we're using that exponential calculation as adjusted in the Pleasanton subdivision ordinance 1252, section 4N, which falls in line with what we've been doing all along. This section of the ordinance, for instance, defines one EDU as a 5/8" water meter. It defines a 2-inch water meter as 8 EDUs. The assessment will be $3,000 per EDU. So let me give you a quick example. If Susie's Button Shop or a veterinary clinic or whatever is going to tie into the sewer line and tie into the water line, and they need a 2-inch meter, they'll be paying $24,000 to tie into that sewer line because it's 8 EDUs. They'll be $24,000 to tie into that water line. That is what has been determined as their pro rata share for the overall cost of the construction of the water and wastewater main. Okay. Any questions so far?
No, sir.
Good to go? Okay.
Mr. Abazo, if you'll note that at
The city of Pleasanton.
Miss
Israel
had to leave at 7 p.m. for another meeting.
The city will administer the agreement. Why? Because the city will know who's connecting to the water main or who's connecting to the wastewater main through our development, plan review, permitting, and inspection processes. There will be a $250 administration fee for the city to administer the program. So if the veterinary clinic came in, produced plans, we're going to tie onto both lines, they paid the money separately to the city, then we would turn around and cut a check and send it to CST branch. The existing ratepayers, the existing taxpayers, do not pay for this at all. The key is whoever ties on to that wastewater main and or that water main will pay. Mayor, I stand for any questions. The staff recommendation is to direct city staff to enter into the cost reimbursement agreement with CST Brands, defining the reimbursement amounts based on EDU demand as defined in the City of Pleasanton subdivision ordinance number 1252, section 4N. And I might add one thing. Another thing that's really key for the city is sooner or later we might have had to put this water or wastewater main in ourselves. So it saved our ratepayers and our taxpayers $396,000.
Mayor,
Mr. Gallegos.
I move to approve the city staff to enter into the cost of reimbursement agreement with CST Brands, defining the reimbursement amount based on the EDU demands as defined in the City of Pleasanton subdivision ordinance number 1252, section 4N.
Second.
Moved and seconded to direct the city staff to enter into a cost reimbursement agreement with CST Brands defining the reimbursement amounts based on EDU demand as defined in the City of Pleasanton subdivision ordinance number 1252, section 4N. Any discussion? None will proceed to the vote. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr.
Mayor, I want to publicly thank Andrew. We've really discussed this for months at length. And Andrew, thanks for being here tonight. The council really likes to see who they're dealing with.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 10, it looks like the individual's not here, so.
I just received a phone call a while ago and was asked if I could come in out of the bullpen, so I'll do the best I can.
All right. Item number 10, discussion action to accept the recommendation for the Fire Station Consultant Selection Committee.
Mayor and council, as you all know, several months ago, you all directed us to put an RFP out for a consultant to do a feasibility study for a fire station to be built possibly on the west side of the city. In addition, the work is to involve a floor plan and renderings. What will it look like? The city manager's office formed a subcommittee to review those written RFPs. We received 8 RFPs, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't that right, Cindy? It was 8 RFPs. And the subcommittee of 5 folks reviewed those RFPs based on the minimum qualifications in the RFP. How many public schools, how many county facilities, and how many municipal facilities had they built before? The preferred qualifications were public facilities, police stations, and fire stations. And the written presentation, we graded them on the written presentation. Who's on the design team? What's the history of the firm, and who are some of their references? After going through the 8 RFPs and scoring them, it was decided by the subcommittee that they wanted to interview or have presentations made by 3 of the 8. The city manager's office then appointed a larger main committee to hear the presentations. I asked Keith Powell to moderate and chair the committee. He was not a voting member since he wasn't appointed by council, but to moderate and chair the committee. And he graciously accepted, and I really thank him for that. The committee was comprised of John Medding, Chuck Garris, Johnny Weezar, Ronald Sanchez, Earl Peterson, and John Rainey. The city manager was not a part of the committee because of the past history he has had with some of the firms who submitted, and also some of the ones that were interviewed as well. After the presentations, which consisted of a 20-minute presentation by the consultants on anything they wanted to present to the committee, and it allowed for 5 structured follow-up questions by the committee to be graded. The committee came back with a unanimous decision, recommend to the council that RVK Consultants conduct a feasibility study to include a floor plan layout, renderings, and estimated costs for this fire station. Mayor, I might say that there were 3 excellent presentations and the scores were somewhat close. We had a consultant as far as ways almost 200 miles come and present. We felt like we had some really good consultants. Your recommendation from the staff or from the committee this evening is to accept the recommendation from the committee of RVK Consultants to conduct the feasibility study, the floor plan layout, renderings, and estimated cost for a new fire station on the west side of the city of Pleasanton.
Mayor,
Mr. Gagos.
I move to approve to accept the recommendation from the committee of RVK Consulting to conduct the feasibility study, floor plan layout, renderings, and estimated costs for the new fire station on the west side of the city of Pleasanton.
Second.
Moved and seconded to accept the recommendation from the committee of RVK Consultants to conduct a feasibility study, floor plan layout, renderings, and estimated costs for a new fire station on the west side of the city of Pleasanton. Any discussion? None will proceed to the vote. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 11 is discussion action to discuss to direct the city staff to negotiate an acceptable agreement for the completion of a feasibility study, schematic design, renderings, and estimated costs for a new fire station on the west side of the city. Mr. Pearson.
Mayor, this is somewhat procedural, but we are asking for direction at this time to bring back a contractual agreement for consideration by the council to move forward with the schematic design, floor plan, and renderings.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Bessel.
I move to direct city staff to negotiate an acceptable agreement for the completion of a feasibility study, schematic design, renderings, and estimated costs for a new fire station on the west side of the city.
It's moved and seconded to direct the city staff and negotiate an acceptable agreement for the completion of the feasibility study, schematic design, renderings, and estimated costs for a new fire station on the west side of the city. Any discussion?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to amend the motion to include, may I add it?
You're recognized. You can.
Okay, Mayor, I'd like to move to amend the motion to add, at that point, direct the city staff to bring the negotiation agreement before the city council for consideration and possible acceptance.
Second.
Mr. Rebaz, I hope you have that because I don't.
Well, it's the same as recommended, except Doug didn't
Has
finish.
to bring to the staff.
Yeah, it's not necessary because really we should go off of what's written in the agenda. But it's been moved and seconded to amend the motion by adding, at that point, direct the city staff to bring the negotiated agreement before the city council for consideration and possible acceptance. Any discussion on the amendment? Being now proceed to the votes in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Amendment carries. The amended motion is to direct the city staff to negotiate an acceptable agreement for the completion of the feasibility study, schematic design, renderings, and estimated costs for the new fire station at the west side of the city. At that point, direct the city staff to bring negotiated agreements before city council for consideration and possible acceptance. Any discussion? None will proceed to the vote. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number
If
12.
I could, Mr. Zuschlag, principal in the firm, just wanted to say a word or two to the
Okay.
council.
I'm just here to extend a heartfelt appreciation of coming back to Pleasant from RVK. Keith Windrick, who will be the project, he's a co-principal of the firm. He said he wished he could be here tonight, but he had previously gave him, but we do have the architect that will be assisting us here. It was Stephen Guzman. And so anyway, we are excited and to be back.
All right,
So
welcome back.
Welcome back. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good day.
Item number 12 is discussion action on scheduled council meetings in November, December, and January.
We just wanted to go over possible council meetings and where we stand. We obviously would still like to have the 2 council meetings in November. I think last year we looked at canceling the second meeting in November because of Thanksgiving. We would still like to have those 2 meetings in November this year. However, in December, with Christmas approaching, and in January with the regular scheduled meeting on Thursday, January 1st, which is a holiday, we would respectfully request that the council consider canceling the December 18th and January 1st meeting as we move forward.
Okay.
Okay.
January what?
First.
January 1st and the 18th.
That'll be the second.
December 18th.
December, okay. Mayor,
Mr. Gagos.
let me go back.
November, we gonna have that 2 meeting, regular.
You'll have both meetings in November, is what our recommendation is.
Mayor, I move to approve rescheduling, or, I'm sorry, I move to approve canceling the regular city council meeting in November the 18th and,
December.
I'm sorry,
December 18th.
December the 18th and January the 1st.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the cancellation of the regular city meeting on 18 December and January 1st. Any discussion? None will proceed to the vote. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Pearson. Item number 13, a special session of October 6, 2014 is hereby recessed to hold an executive session pursuant of Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. Subchapter D as it pertains to personnel matters, 551.074. Executive session matters may be discussed in open session if appropriate. Time is 7:12 p.m. All right, the special session of the City Council of the City of Pleasant, Texas is now hereby reconvene at 7:26 p.m. And item number 16, unless there's objection, we're going to dismiss agenda item number 16. Seeing none, we'll move to agenda item number 17.
Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Mr. Gallegos.
Oh, that was fast.
Second.
There was no second.
Adjourn. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand.
I guess they weren't
Meeting
ready
is
to
adjourned at
adjourn.
7:26 p.m.